Welcome everybody, and thanks for joining. Joni, can you confirm that I can be heard?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, awesome. So this is the athlete information meeting. This is the first of two. The next will be the verification meeting, verification of final entries. That's July 8th at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And a reminder that this meeting is going to be recorded and uploaded to the OWA YouTube for anyone who can't attend tonight. So my name is Amanda Braddock, and I am the competition coordinator for the OWA. I'll be leading this meeting in English, but I'm also joined by Joni Gaudreau, who is our translator for the evening, and she can clarify details in French or answer any questions asked in the chat. If I'm speaking too quickly or if something is unclear, please stop me as soon as possible with a question in the chat box, which I'm going to open now so that you can see it. So for those of you, athletes and coaches, who, if you've done an online meet before, a lot of this is going to be very familiar. And for those who haven't, this might seem like a lot of change compared to a regular competition. But it does get easier once you're in it and the first half an hour of competition is through. And then we've tried to make everything as clear and easy as possible so that this just feels like as close to a regular competition in person as possible. So one of the things that we've done to try and help with this is set up a competition page for this competition on the onweightlifting.ca website. I'm going to open this now. This is where you'll find anything that you need before and during the competition. So you'll have all Zoom links. This is the information meeting Zoom link. You'll find final schedules, final start lists. Zoom links for the weigh-in and competition platform will be here. A scoreboard available for coaches and athletes. Session start lists. This is where you'll find the session start lists that are uploaded after weigh-ins for every single session. So for example, the technical officials information meeting we just uploaded, and maybe you can't see it on the other screen, but we just uploaded the starting attempts. Forgive me. Here, so that link on the competition page. Sorry, I think nobody saw this. So this is the competition page. All the links are here. Zoom links, scoreboard, session start lists for every session. For example, this one that we just practiced with. So this is where you'll access everything that you need for the day of competition. Regulations, results, and medalists page will be up here as well. So we basically want to make this as simple as possible for athletes so that you're not searching through emails, trying to find the links that you need. And you can also access this page directly through the home page so that you don't need to remember this link. So what do you need for this competition? If you're an athlete, you're going to need a platform-facing laptop. You're also probably going to need a smartphone to load the scoreboard and or to record your weigh-in. You can also have the scoreboard open on the laptop, but you'll want the Zoom open so that you can see what is being recorded so that you know when your athlete's in view. And the smartphone is usually a good idea for weigh-ins so that you're not trying to hold a laptop and step on scale at the same time. It's recommended that you download the Zoom application to all devices, including your smartphone, if you're using it for weigh-ins, and your platform-facing laptop. The link can be accessed here. So you're not scrambling on the day to download an app. It is highly recommended that athletes hardwire their internet connection. So you can string an Ethernet cord to your laptop in front of the platform so that you're not running on Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi or data are really temperamental and unreliable. and you don't want to be fiddling with that or losing lifts because your internet connection is not solid. And then coaches who are undergoing their evaluations for this competition, you'll need an additional laptop set up to film your warm-ups because you'll be working directly with Francois and you'll be wanting to speak to him. You'll be on mute on the main competition platform. So you'll want to be able to communicate with Francois and have him go through your warm-ups and see your warm-ups. So you'll need an additional laptop for that. So otherwise, this competition is going to run mostly like an IWF competition. So you'll have weigh-ins 2 hours before competition start. They're up to an hour in length if needed. Announcements will happen 10 minutes prior to start time. During that period, the Zoom control will check your platform. So we'll be going around and making sure that everything on your screen is visible, that the athlete is visible, that there's no light source behind you blocking the view for the referees. And then we'll also run through technical equipment checks, technical official equipment checks, and making sure that all our officials are in their positions. And then the first lift will happen at competition time. So what do you need on your platform? Your platform space must be 4 meters by 4 meters or less. It must be clearly marked with tape. So the referees need to know exactly when you cross over your 4 meters by 4 meters. If that's not clear, then they can't tell if you've run off your platform. If your platform area is less than 4 meters by 4 meters, you can't leave your marked area. So for example, in this image up here, if you were only able to tape off the red section and that's smaller than 4 meters by 4 meters, maybe it's 3 by 3, and you're lifting within that area, you still can't leave that area. Your laptop should be facing your platform, obviously. It should be raised off the floor, so balance it on a box or a chair or something so that it's not right at ground level. And then the entire athlete needs to be in view of the platform facing laptop at full extension in the jerk. So we need to see bar and arms of the athlete in the entire view at the extension of the jerk. Try not to have any light source behind or directly over your platform. So if you're lifting in a basement or something and there's a window behind you, block it off so that we're not getting any backlit glare behind the athlete so that we can clearly see elbows. And the same thing goes for, depending on the platform, overhead lights can do the same thing. So we'll go through that on the day of competition after announcements, but try and plan ahead for that so that you're not scrambling to find something to cover a window with right before you lift. Logos or banners in the background are acceptable as long as the athlete and lockout can be seen clearly. So if it's a really busy banner or it's a really detailed logo and the camera on your laptop isn't so good and it's not a very clear image, then we might ask you to remove it or cover it. So if you have any doubt about whether or not it's going to be clearly visible to the referees, please try and have that covered or removed before the competition. Weigh-in. So try and sign in at least 15 minutes before your weigh-in start time. You'll be placed in a waiting room and then the officials will admit you one by one based on the start list. If it seems like you've been waiting for a really long time, that's fine. It's just taking a while to get through all the weigh-ins, and takes a little bit longer to verify things compared to an in-person competition, just because of the nature of the online format. So if you're in the waiting room and you've clicked the waiting room Zoom link, then you're good. Just be patient. So once you're in the weigh-in room, one official will verbally confirm your ID, your body weight, and your opening attempts. And then that session start list will be uploaded to the shared drive that you can access on the competition page that I showed previously. So When you are weighing in, remember that the 20 kilo rule is in effect for this competition. So your opening attempts must total within 20 kilos of your entry total. If you need to change your entry total, please do so before the verification meeting next Thursday. All athletes have to weigh in wearing a singlet. There are no exceptions that will be made for this. Please do not weigh in your compression shorts or shorts in a sports bra or anything other than a singlet. Do not undress in the weigh-ins. Please keep your singlet on the entire time. And then officials can disqualify you if you are not able to weigh in your singlet, if you forgot it or you don't have it. It's not okay. We need all athletes wearing singlets. Very important. Because all the athletes are wearing singlets, a 300-gram allowance is provided for the singlet. So any athlete trying to meet the top of their weight class is permitted to weigh in up to 300 grams over and still have that counted in their weight class. If you do not make weight, you cannot compete. So any body weight class changes need to be made before the verification meeting. It's the final deadline. And again, that is next Thursday from 8 p.m. Eastern to 9 p.m. Eastern. The weigh-in procedure is going to run very similar to a national competition weigh-in with the addition of calibrating a scale. So please bring government-issued photo ID to your weigh-ins, driver's license, passport, health card, etc. The official will ask you to present this identification before you even start. So have that ready. And then you're going to calibrate your scale with a plate of 20 kilos. This should say a single plate of 20 or 25 kilos. So have a plate with you ready to weigh in the weigh-in room. And then you're going to calibrate the scale. So you're going to show the scale set to 0. You're going to place the plate on the scale, keeping that in view of the camera. And then you're going to show the scale displaying the weight of the plate within 0.3 kilos. Once that's been cleared by the official, then the athlete weighs in. So the same procedure, you'll show the scale at 0. The athlete will step on the scale, staying in view of the camera. And then the athlete will show the scale again, displaying the weight of the athlete within 300 grams of their weight class. Then the athlete is going to declare their openers verbally to the official and also enter into the chat box set to everyone. And then the official is going to verbally confirm all of this back to you. One important note is that if you are lifting with black bumper plates, you need to bring those with you to the weigh-in and verify the weight of those and have them taped in your weigh-in. So don't wait until the competition time to tape black bumper plates, and I will discuss more of that in a minute. So it's a good idea to check your calibration plate before weigh-ins. We've run online competitions where people's plates did not calibrate, and it's impossible for us to know if that's an issue with the plate or the scale. And then be prepared. Please have your Zoom name in. Oh, sorry, I just saw a question come in. Are 45 pound plates acceptable for weigh-ins? No. Please have all weights in kilos. If that means you need to bring the scale with you to the competition location, you've got to figure that out. But anything that is used in verifying body weight or the weight on the bar during the competition needs to be in kilos. Is that clear, Nick? Just give me a thumbs up if it's clear. Okay, awesome. So please try and be prepared. It's impossible for officials to know who you are if your Zoom name is not you or your club, and you might be waiting in the weigh-in room longer than you need to if the officials don't know that you're there until the very end. So please have your Zoom name as clear as possible, either your name or your club, so that officials can admit you. Have your ID ready, have your scale ready, have your calibration plate ready, be in your singlet, and then have your opening attempts ready. If you need to ask your coach, make sure you get all that info before you go to the weigh-in so that it's as quick and painless as possible. The competition platform. So after that weigh-in, the officials are going to let you know to sign into the competition platform Zoom link 30 minutes prior to your session start. Just like the weigh-ins, if the previous session is still going on, you'll be put in a waiting room until the prior session ends. And then athlete announcements will begin 10 minutes before the session start. And at that point, Zoom Control will check and adjust your athlete platforms. They might ask you to move your camera up or down so that we can clearly see the athlete. And then the first lift begins right at start time. In terms of bar loading, we want the bar loaded as closely to IWF standards as possible. Because we're not requiring competition collars for this meet, it's not necessary that it be exactly IWF standards. You can use spring collars, but they won't count towards the weight of the bar. But it's still important that the bar is loaded with heaviest plates inside, just as in competition, and same thing goes with the change plates. So even if you have your spring collar, you want your change plates on the outside unless they're going to fall off. And we basically just need to clearly see what's on the bar. So black bumper plates are okay, but you must bring them to the weigh-in and let the official know that you have plates to weigh, and then you need to tape them in appropriate colors so that when we see the bar on the platform, it's easy to see exactly what's on the bar. So the competition will flow as such. The announcer will call on the current athlete. This is pretty much exactly as we'll run in a regular competition. The announcer will call on your current athlete. Your screen will be highlighted by Zoom Control. And what we need to do to verify your bar is you are going to set your bar 45 degrees to the camera, just as you see in this background photo. So imagine the platform is facing directly towards the camera. The bar is 45 degrees. I can clearly see what is on the side of this bar. And so the announcer will say, athlete is in view. That's how you know your screen has been properly selected. The announcer will verbally verify the weight on the bar. Bar is verified. And then the announcer will begin the clock. And you can reset your bar to center.
Amanda, you have one more question in the chat.
Oh, we have one athlete from Alberta representing Alberta, lifting in BC. I don't believe there are any issues with that. If they are representing Alberta and they are from Alberta, they have an address in Alberta, then I think that is fine. I'll confirm that, but I don't think there are any issues with that. If the athlete is following themselves, oh, sorry, I forgot to mention, how do I go back? Announcer will begin the clock. So note that no time is allotted for loading the bar. So when your athlete is called, it's your responsibility to make sure that the bar is loaded to the appropriate weight by the time they're called, because no additional time will be given. We see the athlete in view, we verify that the weight is correct, and then the clock begins. In the case that you are following yourself, there's a 2-minute clock. The clock begins as soon as the athlete is called for that second attempt. So if you've missed a lift and you're following yourself, you're still in view, you're still the active lifter, the clock begins as soon as that second weight is called and the screen is in view. No additional time is given for loading. The only time the clock will pause is when you are declaring your change and then the marshal is entering the change. So it's to your benefit after you complete your lift to declare either the same weight or an additional change as soon as possible so that your clock doesn't run, or so that you pause the clock briefly, have a moment to change the lift. Sorry, another question in the chat. Will the camera stay at a 45-degree angle? So, okay, so to clarify, the camera and your laptop is facing centered to the bar. So your camera should be dead on. We want to see these lifts straight ahead. You're just going to turn the bar 45 degrees to the camera so that we can see the side of the bar to verify the weight. And then once the clock begins, you can re-rotate the bar back to center and begin the lift. Awesome. Will there be restrictions on who is allowed in the Zoom session to keep down on lag. Yes, so any spectator will not be permitted in the Zoom session. It will just be athletes and coaches. Any spectator will be directed to the live stream link, which isn't part of the Zoom. So yeah, 2 different feeds. For a Zoom name on the competition platform, we have 3 athletes in a single session. Please list that as your club name. That's fine. Is that clear?
More questions in the chat.
Yeah, so this one question came in. If you have multiple athletes from the same club, please use your club name. And I'll go through that. So I'll be Zoom controller for the whole weekend. And as we verify platforms, if there are 3 athletes from the same club and they're all on the same platform, then I'll keep track of that so that I know which screen to select when that athlete is called. So when you are attempting changes, are there any other questions regarding loading, platform setup before I move on? Okay, so when you are, will this presentation be available? Yes, so this whole thing is being recorded right now, and I will upload this to the OWA YouTube page for access by anyone who can't attend this meeting tonight. You are welcome. Attempt changes. If you need to change your attempts, which you will, hopefully, you will make those changes in the Zoom chat box. In terms of formatting, please enter either the athlete's surname declares X weight, or preferably athlete number. So if your athlete's number 3 on the session start list, it would be 3 declares X weight. That just keeps it consistent, very easy for the marshal to see your change. It's to your benefit to keep this format, because if the marshal doesn't understand your declaration, then you're going to lose a little bit of time there, and they might run the clock on you, whatever. So try and keep that format. Last name declares X weight, or athlete number declares X weight. Please make sure that the chat box is set to everyone. This is important because if you direct message the marshal and the marshal's connection is lost, then all of that chat record is also lost, and there's no record of you making the changes. So please make sure it's set to everyone, or if you private message someone else thinking you still had it set to everyone and the marshal never sees your change, then you miss out on that. So please make sure it's set to everyone. And then in terms of attempt changes, the usual time requirements do apply. So the first change has to be made within 30 seconds. So be aware of that. It's usually to your benefit. I've done an online competition, and it's always easier just to make a change right away instead of trying to buy time on the clock, because we aren't accounting for time loading. Just a note, no down signal will be given. You might be able to hear it, but we can't guarantee. I don't think we can guarantee that the down signal can be heard for some reason. So no down signal will be given for athletes by the referees. So the athletes must show control of the bar and have a coach or decide that the lift is complete to their satisfaction before dropping the bar. If you're running into any technical issues, and just a note that athletes that lag or lose connections in the middle of the lift will not be credited for that attempt. Oh, sorry, a question came in. Expect a delay from typing your message. Sorry, Meg, I don't understand the question. Do you mean once you type in the chat, the marshal will be monitoring the chat, so there shouldn't be any delay between typing and the marshal seeing your message, but there might be a delay between the marshal seeing your message and being able to enter that change, especially if the competition is very close and a lot of changes are coming in at the same time. So try to be aware of the clock and don't let it get so close that 1 or 2 seconds is going to make a difference between making that change and missing the change. Do we need to have the mic open during competition? No, please remain on mute unless you're the active lifter and you want to unmute it briefly. But otherwise it's easier for everyone involved just to stay on mute. If you have any issues, then please enter them into the chat. So again, athletes that lag, if you lose connection or you're choppy in the middle of a lift, referees cannot credit you for that attempt. And you won't be given any additional time permitted for technical issues. So the moral here is please hardwire your internet connection if you possibly can. Just because that Wi-Fi is so unreliable sometimes, and depending on the kind of venue that you're lifting in, I know a lot of people are lifting in YMCAs and connection to the internet is not so good. So please hardwire your internet connection and think ahead about that before the competition. And then final note, please fully charge or have the laptop plugged in. You might need an extension cord or something, but you don't want it dying in the middle of the competition or losing your connection in any way. Final reminders, remain on mute unless you're the active lifter. Otherwise, enter questions or issues in the chat. And good luck and have fun. Oh, there's a 10-minute break only in the case that a session has 9 or fewer lifters. Wait, let me double check that actually. I think it's... Yes, when fewer than 9 athletes are in a session, there will be a 10-minute break between snatch and clean. If there are 9 or more athletes in a session, no break between snatch and clean and jerk. Is everything clear? Do you have any questions about any of this? It's very short. So verification of final entries are next week, 8 p.m. When there are 2 athletes competing in the same group or class. I don't understand the question. In the same club, do you need to keep groups? Oh, sorry. No, so everything will just be on, they'll just be sharing the competition platform, essentially. So in the case where you have multiple lifters in the same club, they might all need their own warm-up platform, depending on COVID restrictions in your area. But they'll share a competition platform. It's usually easiest. You could have 2 laptops and have them both running Zoom, but typically it's easiest if you have one laptop set up in front of one competition platform and then have all of your lifters rotating on and off that platform as the session progresses. Does that make sense? Okay. And again, next week is the last chance to change body weight classes, change entry totals. Athletes can move up or down in weight, but if they're moving up, then they need to have hit that next weight class qualifying total, just a note. And if I think it is permitted to if you need to lower your entry total below the qualifying total, I believe that is also fine. Let's check that real quick. And in the event of an injury, an athlete can submit an entry total lower than the qualification total. That's fine. As long as they qualified for the competition, you can enter any entry total you like. It's okay to weigh in at home, provided you have ID and a weight. Yep, so your weigh-in location can be wherever you want. If it's easiest for athletes to weigh in at home and then compete at a separate location, such as a gym, that's fine, but every athlete is responsible for having everything they need for their weigh-ins. So make sure you have your ID with you, make sure you have at least a 20 kilo or a 25 kilo weight, and it's also a good idea to check that weight on your scale first to make sure that it's within 300 grams, because you don't want to only have one plate and then turns out it's 500 grams under, and you don't have anything else to calibrate your scale with. So check all of your equipment beforehand. The only time when I think that would be an issue, having a separate weigh-in and competition location, is if you needed to verify black bumper plates on the competition and you missed that opportunity because you didn't bring those plates to weigh in. Is that clear, Zoe? Okay, perfect. And again, we have Joni on the call, so if you have any questions in French, she can answer them for you more easily than I can. And otherwise, if there are no questions, and I don't think I'm forgetting anything major, we'll go through this again at the verification meeting. Just all of these requirements. This meeting is just to give you sort of a heads up in advance so that you can prepare your competition day without